to order the meeting of the Maplewood Park and Rec Commission on October 21st at, it looks like 6:01. The first thing is roll call. And Audra, maybe because you can see all the screens, do you want to just go around and do that? Because I can't see who's there.
Sure. Terry Millette?
Here.
Craig Brannon?
Here.
Karen Papa?
Here.
And so far, Nikki Villavicencio and Kimmy Schmidt and Bruce Roman are not here yet. They can still join the meeting, but we do have a quorum.
Okay, and I'm here, Dorothy Molstead.
Oh, yes, sorry, Dorothy.
I'm here too.
I have a
So
quick
we have-
question. I'm on record. Is there a way? Is that something that you're doing now that I'm seeing, or am I really?
Yes,
recording?
I'm recording the meeting just as a backup.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so now we have, would you roll call, approve the agenda? Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda for tonight. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 It's kind of hard. Aye. The agenda's been approved. We need approval of the meeting, the minutes of the last meeting. And I don't have in front of me what that date was. Audra?
August 19th.
Oh, we haven't met since August.
No,
My
we haven't
goodness.
had a September meeting, nope.
Okay, can we have an approval of the minutes from the last meeting, please?
Move to approve the minutes from August.
Is there a second?
I was not at that meeting, so I can't.
Okay,
I will second it.
Okay.
all right, thank you. Any discussion?
No.
No, and we'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Or wave your hand, maybe, I don't know. Okay, the minutes have been approved.
And then
And
Dorothy,
Audra,
yep, it would be under new business. We have the Nature Center Task Force update and the Parks and Recreation Programming Task Force update are the next items, so.
and are you doing those?
Correct, yes. I will be
Okay.
doing the Nature
Oh.
Center Task Force update, and Neil Brenneman, our Recreation Supervisor, will be doing the Recreation Programming Task Force update.
Okay, I'll call on Audra for the next part of the agenda.
All right, thank you, chairs, member of the commission. Tonight, under our new business, I wanted to give you an update on the first 2 weeks of task force meetings. It's been pretty intensive meeting. We've had 2 meetings with the the Park Programming Task Force and the Nature Center Task Force, and we've split it up tonight. As I said, we have Neil Brenneman, our Recreation Supervisor, is here, and he's going to be updating you on the Recreation Programming Task Force. But I'm going to start with giving you an update on the meetings we've had so far for the Nature Center Task Force. So I'm going to share my screen with you here. And let's see. Slideshow from the beginning. All right. There's probably a easier way to do this, but so just to give you an overview, when I think we've talked about this at our past meeting, that there was a recommendation from the City Council on, after the Nature Center was closed and we had some staff layoffs, just on how to move forward with what was going to be happening with the Nature Center and programming in Maplewood. And a recommendation that came from City Council is on how best to reopen the Nature Center to serve the region that is financially sustainable and without reliance on Maplewood property tax support. So that was the challenge. And the task forces were put together. We advertised widely for people who were interested in joining, and it was a combination of people being appointed from commissions, city staff, and then people who wanted to be on the commissions that actually interviewed for those positions were appointed. So the task force members for the Nature Center Task Force, city staff were City Manager Melinda Coleman, Assistant City Manager HR Director Mike Sable, myself. Kathy Juneman is our City Council liaison. Simba Blood is from the watershed, Ramsey County watershed. Then we had Melanie Harding and Marcy Altman from Ramsey County. Candace Ogeson was appointed from the ENR to join the commission. And then we had other appointees that are kind of across the board. They're either members of Friends of Maplewood Nature, they are volunteers, or they were just members of the community that were really interested in the future of the Nature Center. That would be James Beardley, Carrie Bittner, Rebecca Ryan, Joe Fox, Jan Heyman, who actually is a retired naturalist from the Nature Center, Camille Johnson, Micah Larson, Elizabeth Roth, Margaret Sagstetter, Martha Wolf, and Stacy Yoakum. So that it's quite a large group, and it's varied. So we're really happy to get that kind of response to join our task force. And again, if I'm going too fast, let me know. I tend to speed through these presentations, so I'm happy to back up or slow down.
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
Wasn't there a Park and Rec or a commission member on there?
There was not for this. They chose to get someone from the Environmental Natural Resources Commission instead of a Parks Commission. That was the decision that they made. Yep. So that's where Candace Okeson came in. But that's a good question. Sure. Okay, so again, I'm just going to be touching on it. I don't want to run another task force meeting, but just to give you an idea of what was happening. For meeting one, some of the discussion points we had were obviously, oh, sorry, I think I might have gone too many slides ahead here. No, I don't know why they're not in order. Sorry about that. I'm going to go back. All right. We'll do it this way. So we did our introductions at the first meeting. And it was just getting to know everyone, and it was the Zoom format. So obviously, you know, people didn't know each other. We weren't in a room together, and it was a little bit of a challenge because we weren't able to necessarily, you know, use whiteboards or brainstorm and that kind of thing. So it was really important to get to know everybody. And so we spent a lot of time on introducing everyone. And then City Manager Coleman gave a presentation on an overview of the budget and kind of some of the financial reasons that we came to some of the decisions that the city did, and some of the challenges. And some I would highlight would be obviously the COVID pandemic has really, you know, wreaked havoc on our economy and everything else. And then the importance for council to have a 0% levy for 2021, not to raise the levy. So those are some highlights of some of the budget conversations that we had. And then we spent a little more time on the Nature Center budget, just to give some background. And then at the first meeting, some of the discussion points that came out of it, there's a lot of good conversation, but again, we talked about funding and financing, partnership opportunities, roles of volunteers in the Friends group. And the Friends group refers to the Friends of Maplewood Nature. That's their foundation. And then competitors, that was the word used, but basically that meant, you know, what are other nature centers doing in the region? What services are already out there around us? And just taking a harder look at what already is there. And then to connect with surrounding communities regarding programming so we don't double up or partner on the same programs. Let's see. And then at our second meeting, what we did was we recapped the previous meeting, and Assistant City Manager Mike Sable let people know where they could find information on the website from these meetings. And then we went over the Nature Center master plan. We had kind of a presentation that we did when we were going through the process and just highlighted the plan. We didn't go through every single page of it, but we also provided a live link that's here as well for you to take a look at the whole plan if you haven't had a chance to. And that was approved in 2019. So any questions on that? Again, I don't want to move too quickly. Let's see. So some of the information that we presented from staff is, we shared that. I don't know why these are out of order. I apologize. I'm going to keep going here. All right. Here we go. And some of the discussion points that came out of our presentation after we reviewed the master plan were the task force members asked about possible partnerships and sponsorships with 3M and other large Businesses and corporations, there was a brief discussion of the various business models, fee-based versus sponsor-based, and the role of in-kind support. Members inquired about grant monies existing and available and the impact to operating budgets. They had questions about whether or not other nature centers were struggling financially as well. Could we assemble a list of the different assets in the region, and what other surrounding service models look like, to be discussed, at our next meeting. And then there was a comparison drawn to watershed districts and a question if the idea of parks and nature centers could be considered regional aspects. There was some conversation about like Three Rivers Park District, how they operate, and maybe an option would be the different areas here combining to create an northeast metro or some kind of regional group to kind of support each other and offer services. And then they wanted to make sure we asked them what was important to them going forward. And they mentioned the importance of trails, access to space, outdoor areas, environmental awareness and education, the Green Step Cities designation and leadership is important. Maintenance of plant communities, controlling invasive species, promoting native species, and keeping the integrity of the physical trails themselves. And then connecting with higher education groups to provide service learning credits for students. That was something the Nature Center was really involved in, bringing these groups in to help us with manage our natural resources. We actually have a group next week that's coming out to do some work at Fish Creek, and they're vital to being able to get this work done, having those volunteers. And then it also benefits the people taking part in it when they get their education credits or service learning credits. And then connecting with higher education groups to provide service learning. I just said that, sorry. Members also identified things they plan to do in the interim. Some members were really motivated to go and visit other nature centers if they could, look into sponsorships. Someone had a connection they thought maybe to Tesla Corporation about maybe getting a vehicle that nature center staff could use, because that was something that was mentioned that was a real barrier to providing education on the go, is not having a vehicle. And then gathering information from peer communities like Roseville. So those are some of the things that we touched on in the first two meetings. And our meeting that's coming up this Thursday, we're actually going to be reviewing the different nature centers around our area, and just looking at what they have to offer, their model, whether they're nonprofit, their city, their county, their regional, and then just kind of getting a feel for what is really out there. And that is the main focus for our meeting on Thursday. And we're just going to keep on with these meetings, and we hope to have a recommendation to City Council in December. So any questions on that? I know it was a lot of information quickly, but I do want to say that we have a great group of people, and they're very invested in looking for solutions and motivated to stay with the task force and try to come up with some really good ideas going forward.
Audrey, I have a question. What is the goal to reopen? How soon?
There isn't a set goal of actually reopening. It could be a lot of different things. It could be, potentially reopening as is. It could be changing how the Nature Center operates, who operates it. It's just, we're in the stage where we're just exploring all those options. But we want to have at least a recommendation of what this group thinks would be a good idea moving forward, and then we would take it from there. But it's not like it would be not a quick fix. We just really want to be exploring this to see what could happen going forward, but there isn't a set date.
Okay.
I don't mean to be evasive, but there just really
No.
isn't.
People have just asked me, and I'm like, I don't know if I had no idea.
I'm wondering, were we planning to have community gardens this year? I mean, that shouldn't be terribly impacted by COVID, but the people that ran that also were out of the nature center, were they not?
I'm sorry, were you talking about the community gardens?
Yeah, I'm wondering, I mean, that shouldn't be affected by COVID.
No, actually the community gardens did really well at Edgerton this year, and we're just wrapping up there. They're taking all their garden supplies down, but that was not affected. We did come up with a really extensive COVID plan for how they could operate and best practices for safety, and it went really well, and we intend to have the Edgerton Garden next year as well.
Who's gonna oversee that? Because I can't remember her name, but she was she worked out of the
Oakley Bizant.
yeah, Oakley. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't she work out of the nature center?
She did. And currently, it was our natural resources coordinator, Emily Dunlap, who, again, I'll talk about a little later in the meeting, but she took a job with Three Rivers Park District. So she has left, and we're in the process of hiring a new natural resource coordinator. So that person would take over overseeing the garden. And for right now, it's myself with help from Neil and the park maintenance staff.
Okay.
Because there's really not a lot going on right now, except for closing down the garden. And I have something to share at the end of the meeting. The park maintenance crew actually built something for the gardens. They just got finished with it. I'll be sharing with you. So right now it's a group effort, but we see the new natural resources coordinator is the one spearheading the gardens. All right.
So can I ask a quick question?
Sure, absolutely.
I'm assuming that there is somebody who's charged with the care of the building to make sure that the heat is on when it's supposed to be in the winter and
Sure.
all of that kind of stuff. Does that come out of the Park and Rec Department? Is that city services or?
It's actually, that part of it will be managed by building operations, which
Okay.
already is done by the city. Our building operations staff go, and they're the ones that have always been like checking the trash and making sure the building's running, making sure the heat is the way it needs to be, taking care of repairs if they're needed, and they'll continue that. So
Okay,
the building won't just sit vacant and not checked on.
good.
Yeah. Any other questions about the Nature Center Task Force? Okay, if there are none, then I am going to turn it over to Neil Brenneman, and he's going to continue with an update on the Parks and Recreation Programming Task Force. And you'll see a lot of similarities because they're very similar in their setup. They're going to have very different conversations, but again, there'll be some similarities because we're basically trying to figure out the same thing with both task forces, just different areas of the Parks Department. So Neil, I will turn it over to you.
Sounds good.
You should be able to share your screen.
All right, let's see. All right, do we got, everybody see the slideshow up there, all right?
And
Mhm.
hopefully Neil's will go smoother than mine.
Yep, hey, everybody, can you see it?
I
Yep.
can see it.
Perfect,
Yes.
okay. All right. Well, like Audra said, the framework of the task force, especially the first couple of meetings, is very similar, just kind of going over a lot of similar stuff, the impact of COVID and the budget. I anticipate the next few meetings kind of discussion changing quite a bit between the two of them. But so you'll see a repeat of some of the information, but so I won't stay on that too much when we get there. But so the overview for the Recreation Task Force is preparing a recommendation to the City Council on how best to operate parks and recreation programs to serve the community that is financially sustainable without the reliance on Maplewood property tax board. So similar in scope as the Nature Center one. The task force members, the city staff are also the same. City Manager Melinda Coleman, Assistant City Manager and HR Director Mike Sable, Recreation, Parks and Recreation Manager Audra, you know her, and myself. Dorothy is also on that on the task force, as well as Bill. They'll probably be able to provide any some other feedback as well with regards to the meeting so far. We have Bryce Sheeran from Little Canada. He's a Little Canada Parks and Recreation Director. Mike Erickson from the Maplewood Area Historical Society. I'm sure many of you are familiar with him. And then the rest of them, we have a lot of representation from some of our sports associations in neighboring cities. Some of them have participated in leagues that we've run and programs that we've run. and some of them haven't, but they are in the surrounding community that have an interest in programming as well. Scott Martinson with the North St. Paul Athletic Association, Greg Berth with the Oakdale Athletic Association, boys basketball, Nolan Cornell and Nick Kramer from South St. Paul boys basketball, Beth Watchman from NEU Soccer Club. Aaron Wolf is a resident, and he actually was a previous ballroom dance instructor as well. Just kind of got both sides there. Vicki Lee Hers, a Maplewood resident, parent, and adult volleyball participant, as well as Bao Bang. So, variety of people with different backgrounds, but all have the same goal in mind. So the information we presented in the first meeting, we did pretty much the same thing. We had introductions, shared the city budget information, went over the budget process and the general fund overview, the goals and challenges of the 2021 budget, again with the COVID impacts to that budget, and again relayed the importance to the group of a 0% levy from the city council. And then we did a kind of a larger overview of the Parks and Recreation budget, programming, and parks. Some of the discussion points from the group with regards to the first meeting is there was questions on what programs and events were offered through Parks and Recreation, what programs or events were we able to offer virtually, or did we offer some virtually? Then there was some discussion and interest in looking at program-specific budgets for some of the top programs or some of the more popular programs, just as a way to look at how things were going, if there was ways to, whether it's increase fees or they're just wanting to get a hold of, get an idea of kind of how some of that worked on our end. There's discussion on how programs are marketed, and one of the kind of the main questions I came up to is what does 2021 programming plans look like for the city and for the department? And then there was discussion on connecting with surrounding communities regarding programming and ways to communicate maybe more than we have in the past, to not double up on certain programs and or to partner on certain programs too, especially in times like this with, where there's maybe a less of a pool of interested participants currently. And then towards the end, there's a discussion on, or more of a question for the next meeting, is who or what programming partners should be approached to kind of start to rope into the conversation regarding the future of programming in Maplewood.
I have a question about what is the level of support that city government pays for programming now? In other words, they're saying they want to have, basically, at least the way I read that, is zero support from the city to pay for programming. Is that am I interpreting that right? And if so, I'm wondering how big of an impact this is.
Chair, members of the commission, if you're asking what the property tax contribution for recreation programs was, it's $297,288.71, but that includes staff costs and benefits but that was the total.
So when he says zero, that doesn't include staff, that's just for the programming?
For the levy increase?
No, I thought it said importance.
Sorry, this one right here was without reliance on property tax support?
Yes, that's the one that I was looking at.
Yeah, and then the overall number, I just have the overall number, and that was for recreation programs was $297,288.71. It's not broken down programming and cost of running programs separated from staff, but that was the total property tax contribution for recreation programming. That was in the budget presentation.
Okay. So there's no other questions. I'll keep going. If there is, feel free to bring them up and we can address them then too. Meeting 2, the information we presented was, again, we did the introductions, but We did a parks program summary. So essentially, I took all the programs that our department offered, put in a spreadsheet with separated kind of adult programs and sports, youth programs, youth sports, and then had a couple categories. One, since the group was interested in community collaboration and virtual opportunities, we did put in a category for whether the program was offered specifically just in-house with just Maplewood participants, or if it was a collaboration with other communities or associations, whether they participated in ours, we participated in theirs, we ran it for them, that kind of thing. So there was knowledge from with the group of the number of programs that we did that were with city, multi-city collaboration at this point. And there also was the list of all the programs that we did offer virtually when this first kind of started looking like it was going to be a long-term problem with COVID. And that way, again, that gave that information to the group that they were looking for, just as some background with regards to that. And then we also listed out some of our major special events and community outreach events that we do as a department. We discussed the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, specifically the executive summary, and then some questions from there. And presented like I mentioned, the programs, sports and special event lists, and then specifically an overview of a budget, a 2019 budget, since that was kind of the last year that we didn't have COVID impacts, for the youth dance program, our youth basketball league, and our adult softball league. So gave them kind of a look at what those numbers look like, and with regards to how we each one of them is a little bit different too on how we structure the instruction for the program. So they're kind of representative of a few different ways that we did things as a department. So it gave them kind of the overview, a quick and dirty overview of just everything that the department had offered and did for the community. So they had kind of able to frame some of the other questions moving forward and some of the discussion moving forward. From that, there was a few extra discussion points that one of them specifically was how does the group as a whole, the task force, flush out any other people or groups that should be at the table with us in the programming discussion moving forward, and whether that's other associations, other cities, business partners, YMCA, things like that. Just getting that kind of thought process going. There was a discussion about associations in general and what is needed for startup, because Maplewood does not have an association. A lot of the communities that we did work with were that city's association. So that was a discussion that was brought up, and just kind of general conversation on barriers to starting an association, things that the city has that associations maybe don't, and how those kind of go hand in hand in other cities, and just kind of a general quick overview. We did discuss Maple Athletic Association and their history and their prominence in the past, and that we don't have them anymore. There was some discussion about programming, as far as changing maybe ideas of programming, or how programs are offered and to who they're offered, by maybe reaching out and programming for already established neighborhood pods. If neighborhoods and kids are playing together, people are kind of starting to naturally kind of pod up, whether it's neighborhoods or family members, and kind of keeping that group exposure to a minimum. Some of for some people, just a way to, there's discussion on if there's programs to kind of reach out with them if there's concern from residents, from participants, about joining a larger group activity or program. Then there also would be would there be options for programs if the group came together with something? That was one of the questions, was if the task force was presented or came up with a program or ideas or a plan for programming with the city, would that be an option if presented to the city? So there was some discussion regarding that. And then same with the Nature Center one, is looking at what other surrounding cities service models look like, and whether, and so we're pulling together information based on some other cities and comparing and contrasting population, budget, funding, and how they offer their programs and events, and that'll be discussed at the next meeting, just so that there's again another different viewpoint on what some of the other cities and cities are offering in terms of how they deliver programming and events. And these were kind of the spreadsheet that we had talked about, that I talked about earlier, with regards to we have the multi-agency participation list, and just yes or no, and then virtual options that we offer. We did offer some virtual programs, Tai Chi and ballroom dance for some of the adult programs we offered as virtual options. And then so these are our youth athletics as well. I won't have to go over individually, but these are the list of things that we show to the group as well, the programs and athletics and events we offered. These are some other programs and camps. Again, for the virtual options of what we did offer was karate and youth dance, and both of those were popular virtual offerings. And then you can see some of the camps and day trips and active adult programs we did. And that'll about wrap that up. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Again, it was very similar in framework and overview as the Nature Center task force, as far as kind of discussion these first 2 weeks. Mainly kind of budgets and impacts, and then kind of framing the next few weeks of meetings. So.
Can I add something?
Absolutely.
One of the things that's very difficult to deal with, I think, is we don't know for 2021 what the pandemic is going to look like. Are the schools going to be open? Will we have access to do programming in gyms, fields? It's just so up in the air that I think it's going to be difficult to come up with some really solid, tangible recommendations, frankly.
Chair, members of the commission, that's a great point, and that definitely is a challenge for these commissions. But so back to, I think it was Commissioner Millett's point was, is there a definite deadline for a solution to opening or moving forward? And the answer is no, because of that and other reasons. But it's still good to get a group of the community together and do some problem solving, and just even come up with some kind of path and a way forward, so that when we do get more substantial answers and we can figure things out, we have a framework that we can build on. So that's really the goal of these task forces. I don't know that we're going to have set easy answers. If it was easy, we would have already done it. These are really tough, challenging problems to deal with, and so but it's still really important to do this work.
Agreed.
Yeah, this is also way, beyond next year too. I mean, next year is important, but as this task force is forward looking beyond next year.
Sure. And not to put you on the spot, Bill, but do you have anything that you would want to add from being a liaison on the recreation programming task force? I think you're muted. Let's see if I can unmute you.
There
we go.
Did that work?
Yep, that's good.
No. I'm absolutely fascinated with the camaraderie that I see on the task force from community to community. But one of the things that's interesting that I've had to, in the last few weeks, walk a lot of Maplewood as I campaign. What's fascinating to me is you don't have to walk very far to find a park or some kind of respite. So we can't forget about the fact, that 40,000 people in Maplewood expect, the city to maintain those parks, and that we've actually, carved out that property for residents in Maplewood. So there's kind of two things going on. Is we have to support and develop, and as Audra has done in the past, has got these great play yards for kids and all this other stuff, safe and effective. We can't forget about the fact that we have some core kind of responsibility to our taxpayers and to Maplewood. Then there's recreation programming, and so we got to mingle those kind of ad hoc opportunities as well as the core park opportunities. And I think when I listen to the Oakdale folks and Little Canada folks and everybody talking collaboratively, I think that's where our future is going to be. So I'm very impressed with the amount of collaboration that's going on in the communities. So thanks, Audra.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. I agree. Nice. Are there any other questions about the task force updates? If not, Dorothy, I know you're having a little trouble seeing your agenda, but the next thing would be there's no unfinished business or visitor presentations or commission presentations, so it would be staff presentations, and Neil could start those off, and I would end those if you're ready to move on.
Okay.
All right.
Dorothy. Oh, okay.
Better.
Well, then Neil, if you want to go forward with the staff presentations, I'm going to do the coat drive first, just to talk about that a little bit, and then we'll go into the Parks and Recreation updates. So I'm going to share my screen here and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about this event that we're doing. The city is doing a winter coat drive, and this came out of some conversations we had with our racial equity team in the city that's made up of staff from all different departments across the city, and we thought it would be we did the school supply drive earlier in the year, and we thought winter coat drive, not knowing we were going to get snow on October 19th, but we thought it would be good to do a coat drive. So we are collecting new or gently used coats for the month of October, and there are drop-off sites at the Maplewood, at City Hall, at Fire Station 1 and 2, and the YMCA is partnering with us, and they're also collecting coats. And then we are working with all the coats that we collect. Actually, if they're not new, we are washing them at the fire stations to get them ready to go, so they're ready to hand out. And then we are working with Maplewood schools and the community. So we not only are working with children, we're collecting kids' coats, but also for adults, because we are working with community organizations that work with the homeless populations. And so like to get a shout out if you could spread the word that we're collecting coats for the rest of the month, and they will definitely go to a good cause. And especially this year with everyone's budgets being tight and a lot of people struggling, it's just really an important thing. So any questions about the coat drive? Okay.
Audrey, is there a way we can share that on our Facebook page?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, the communications department is gonna do push out tomorrow again on
Okay.
Facebook in the afternoon, and we'll be sharing it on the Parks and Rec Facebook page. If you want to share it directly from our page, we would love
Okay.
it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Neil, I can turn it over to you then to start off our department updates.
Sounds good. Just wanted to go over a couple of things that we have going on currently and coming up in the future too. We're pretty much wrapped up field rentals now, as you can probably guess after the other day. We started doing field rentals again beginning July 5th, and a couple of different things. Obviously, this year from last year with everything going on, is we required anyone that wanted to even apply for a field rental had to turn in a a COVID safe return to play plan. And those were required by the state and the CDC and the MDH for anyone that was doing any activities, group things like that. So there's requirements set up for them already. I put together a sheet that kind of detailed some other Maplewood specific requirements that we wanted from them, in addition to kind of the base plan that they would have to have from the MDH and the CDC sites. And in that document, I provided links for them to be able to find examples to, and links directly to the websites where they can get kind of cookie cutter information from the MDH as well. So we required that from everybody. With that, it eliminated quite a bit of previous rentals, because it was definitely something that it took some time to put together for each of the groups. So it was kind of nice knowing that the people that did put it together most likely were going to be ones that would be ones to want to follow it, to be able to keep their permits and be able to keep utilizing the fields. We had probably, I would say, approximately maybe 25% of normal field rental, and that kind of transferred. It changed from, we had a lot more baseball at some of our 90-foot full-size fields than we have normally, and partly because of everything getting pushed back from spring into the summer. We had a lot of the state as a whole had a lot of field use requirements or needs in the summertime, because all the leaves kind of got crammed into one time frame. So we had a lot more baseball at Afton specifically than we normally do during the summertime, and significantly less to almost no soccer. In the summertime, we had some soccer rentals towards the end of the or late fall time. But so on the positive side, that they gave our fields some pretty good rest and relaxation for a year. So
There you go.
glass half full there. So that was that. We also have a volleyball rental at Edgerton. It's a Kokoro volleyball rental. We've rented with them in the past at Carver and Edgerton, and they're a great rental. We worked with them. They've put together. They have their safety plan document as well, and they actually sanitize. They come in. They sanitize the gym and the equipment themselves before their rentals. So our staff, it saves our staff time from having to do that, and saves the city resources from not having to, get the equipment necessary and the sanitizer.
And Neil, if I can
cleaning
jump
supplies.
in,
Yep.
I might have missed it, but with Kokoro, they're actually a youth junior Olympic volleyball organization. So I don't know if you had mentioned that it was
I did not.
volleyball. I might have missed that. So
Yeah, so they, hold on. Sorry,
You're
sun's
good.
coming into the room. Doors closed for reasons, son. So they actually, that's why they've had additional, gym space requirements too, with the Minnesota State High School League going back and forth with their fall volleyball and football yes stuff. So they've been pretty busy with their programming stuff. So we've had it's been a great rental for us over the summertime. It's been approximately $19,000 in rental revenue since July 7th, and they're looking at needing some more space through the end of the year, or starting in December-ish as well. So we do have, and to be able to do that, we created a staff protocol sheet for our staff at the gym, and meets the MDH requirements, lists specific things for them to do, times for cleaning and what to clean, when to wear masks, gloves, all that kind of stuff. And all our staff has gone over that. I go over that with them specifically, and they have that information posted at the gyms as well. So they're all, and it includes what happens if someone's gets sick or is a close contact as well. So that's worked out well so far, and The other aspect, I mean, especially now that we got the snow again, is we're in the middle of our warming house planning. It's going to be a little bit different, obviously, this year than last year, and we're working through some of those discussions right now. Going to put together a 3-tiered kind of options to present to management, just as far as some of the things that we have to consider now. Part of the considerations for opening the warming houses is staffing. We're going to definitely need more staff than we normally do, and trying to be able to find that, especially in this climate, will be a challenge in itself. But the additional staff need is not necessarily for hours, but for, if someone does have to quarantine for 2 weeks because they either get it or they come into contact with someone that has it, that's a fifth of our, almost a quarter of our season anyways for 2 weeks. So we'll have to have an additional staff pool to be able to pull from. Another challenge would be the reduced capacity in the warming houses. It creates a couple of new challenges. Is limiting the number of participants or number of people in the warming houses. Staff will have to monitor that. We'll have to look at putting time limits on use inside the warming house. Maybe look at options of seating outside the warming house, or making it easier for more appeasing for people to, when they're taking breaks, take the breaks outside unless they need to come in to warm up, rather than just coming into the warming house to take a break. And then, obviously cleaning in between the seat usage. If people are using the warming house, staff would have to be doing that. Other considerations based on budget and or just the challenges of staffing would be reduced hours or days at the warming houses, or reduced number of warming houses open. This is all stuff that, like I said, it'll be, where it's in a discussion phase and just kind of trying to come up with a few different options, and looking at the pluses and drawbacks to each one, and be able to hopefully provide a positive experience over wintertime in the warming houses and on the skating rinks and everything this year. So.
Yep, and I'll add to that even if the warming houses, that might be problematic, the ice will be maintained. Speaking to what Councilmember Knudsen said, these amenities are really important to the community, especially now with, it's going to be more of a struggle in the winter. You don't want to be inside, you still want to do outside activities. So park maintenance will be maintaining the rinks regardless. It's just trying to figure out that right balance of having the warming houses open. And Neil, one more thing I know you had talked about was even looking at kind of out of the box solutions, like putting shelving and stuff outside of the warming houses so people can put their stuff on it, change their skates, and kind of, like you said, creating a space where maybe if it isn't their turn to go into the warming house, they still will be able to, change out of their stuff and get out on the ice. So that is a challenge we're working on, but I'm confident we'll be able to figure out something that will work. So thanks, Neil, for those updates. Any questions about that before I move on? Okay. One thing I'm going to talk about, it's not official yet by any means. We actually, it will be in front of the council next Monday, but part of our planning in the CIP process was to do some nature center improvements. And that may seem surprising, being that the nature center building itself is closed and there have been staff layoffs, but people are using the grounds of the nature center more than ever now. There are so many people walking the trails and still experiencing the nature center. And these improvements were to improve the trails. There are 3 bridges, an observation deck, and then I don't know if some of you are familiar, but there are stairs that lead up to the neighborhood. And they all were built, 25 to 40 years ago, and they're at the end of their life. They need some TLC replacement / repair. So we went out and got some quotes on what that work would involve, and got 2 quotes, and we are going to the council on Monday to put it in front of them to see, and if it's approved, we would be starting work in the next couple of weeks to repair some of those bridges, a section of the boardwalk that's actually sunk down, so it's underwater more of the time than it's not, and then an observation deck that was built, I think it was the Lions Group and some other people were involved, but it also needs some work, and then making those stairs, repairing them. It's not a complete redo. They're not making them, they're not accessible, but they are a well-used way for the neighborhood to get into the nature center, and we want to preserve that. So those are possible improvements that are coming our way yet this fall and winter. Any questions about that? And I can give you an update at the next meeting to see what comes from that. But one thing that it really surprised me when I was looking back, that in the past years, over 10,000 people have, come and visited the grounds of the Nature Center and walked the trails. And one of the suggestions in the Nature Center Task Force meeting was getting a feel for what the usage is now, whether maybe we would install trail cameras or something just to see how many people are out there. But in the times I'm out there, there are always cars parking and people getting out, families, people coming in, still eating lunch at the picnic tables and just enjoying the ground. So I'm happy to see that people are still enjoying it, and the park maintenance crew is still going to be maintaining the grounds and doing what they need to make it usable for everyone. So just wanted to let you know that. And then our natural resources coordinator, I mentioned that Emily Dunlap has left and taken a position with Three Rivers Park District. So we posted for that position. We had 69 people apply, which was great. And we whittled those applicants down to 11, and we will be doing interviews next Monday and Tuesday. So I'm thinking in the next few weeks, we should have a new natural resources coordinator on board. So that is exciting. Any questions about that? Okay. All right. And then I just wanted to share a couple of projects that the park maintenance crew has been doing. They've been, it's been a challenging year for them too. They maybe aren't, as Neil said, lining in as many soccer fields as they are, but they're looking for ways to use their talents to improve the park system. And a couple of things they've done recently. I'm going to share my screen here. I don't know if you can see this, but the Edgerton Garden, this picture I'm going to show you first, that is what the area where people could put their compost, that's what it looked like this summer. That was just what had been put up, and it was making do, but it really wasn't holding the bins or the stuff all that well, and it was kind of unkempt. And so the park maintenance staff redesigned the bins, and now they're 4 feet deep by 8 feet wide and 5 feet high, so they can hold more compost. It's easier for the parks crew to go out and empty them, and they made sure that the way to open and close them, there are doors on it now, but they're very easy and accessible so that people can get into them. So the after picture, they just finished this up last week. So that is what they look like now, and the door just latches open, so it's going to hold a lot more compost and be a lot more aesthetically pleasing. So it's pretty excited about that. And then, can you see the Afton? I just want to make sure you can see the expanded hockey rink at Afton. Is that what everybody sees on their screen?
Yep.
Okay. The rink at Afton actually was only 98 feet. It wasn't really a full hockey rink. It was just significantly smaller actually than other rinks. And so when we did the street project out that way, there were several large ash trees in the area that had to be removed. And so because of removing the ash trees, it freed up some space, and the staff decided to expand the rink. So they had an additional 32 feet. And this shows you kind of before they finished all the boards, but you can see where the boards still are. That's how small the rink was. And let's see if I can get down to the after picture here. And now you can see all the new boards. So this here was the old rink, and now it has been expanded almost by another half. And so I think this is going to be a great amenity. Like I said, people skate quite a bit at the Afton rink already, and this should be a really nice amenity for people this winter. So that's just a little example of some of the stuff the crew is doing behind the scenes in between removing snow and mowing and trimming by the trails and mulching and all the other things. So I was pretty happy with that. So any questions about either of those projects? Okay. Well, that's all I had for updates, and I'll just turn it back over to you, Dorothy, if there's any final questions or discussions for the commission.
Anybody else have any comments or additions?
I'd like to say I've had a little 2.5-year-old staying with me a lot during COVID. So we've been doing a lot of the parks and
Okay.
they're doing an awesome job keeping those parks up. And I've never been to the Gladstone one, and that is a very nice one. That was
You
very
went
cool.
to the Water Tower Park in the Savannah?
Oh, yeah, boy, and that was, a lot of people were there and it was very nice. And now I've also been back at the Y, now that that's open, and they've actually had classes outside.
Right.
So I haven't done anything inside yet. I'll go walk the pond and I've done some stuff outside, but it's nice to see things back open again.
It is.
But the parks have been kept up really great. They've done an awesome job.
Well, thank you. I will pass that along to the crew.
Mhm.
If there are no other comments, we will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
Thanks. Made and seconded, all in favor?
aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned at 6:57. Thank you, people.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
It's good
thank
to
you.
see you.
Thanks, Audrey.
Bye-bye.